This is part two of the Kentucky Teachers Pension Bill.
And let me just talk about some truth that happened on that call with the governor. It is true that when the governor was running for office, he told everyone this was exactly what he was going to do. He told everyone that he was going to make sure that pensions were funded, which we greatly appreciate because we need our pensions funded. He also said that he knew that we could not keep defined benefit pension plans, which we wholeheartedly disagreed with, but he told everyone that when he was campaigning. So this should not be a surprise to anyone. The other truth is that Superintendent Cook of Taylor County, he told me that if the governor's proposed budget had truly come to be, that would have meant a $1.2 million loss in general funds to Taylor County alone. And in 3 years of that kind of lack of funding would have put Taylor County schools in bankruptcy in 3 years. Those are some hard truths. And the last thing I want to talk about is the governor having the audacity to say that public employees are in Frankfort throwing temper tantrums. We are a united labor force, exercising our constitutional right to free speech. That's not a temper tantrum. We're public servants questioning the elimination of an inviolable contract by their elected representatives. That is not a temper tantrum. And educators speaking out for their students who can't yet speak out for themselves is not a temper tantrum. Educating the public about how public pensions are funded, earned, and distributed is not an example of a temper tantrum. Those are all examples of how we educate. It is in our blood, it's in every fiber of our being. We are here to serve the public. And when you talk about public schools, firemen, policemen, people that work in your city and county governments, people that work in that Capitol building, in the annex, people that work in the transportation department, people that work in child and health and human services, they are all there to protect and serve the public. And that is the bottom line. And to assert anything else is just simply not true.
Stephanie, well stated. I was noticing this morning in Kentucky News that lawmaker Robert Stivers says that this plan would never pass. So that is certainly good news for the teachers. Have we left out anything? Because again, we're not a talk radio station. We're not a news talk format. We're a country station that gives you or the governor or the judge executive or a school teacher or the superintendent a platform. And if he or she wants to come and use our radio station, we allow that. And so, I think someone had sent me a message yesterday that I was for the governor's plan, and I never, not one time during that interview, made any type comment. I didn't agree because I'm not in Frankfort.
He's a homer. Don't get it misconstrued. He is a homer. It is another radio station called KSR, Kentucky Sports Radio, that sends out open-ended invitations to any elected official, runner, candidate, whatever, to come on and sell their pitch and just talk about their bills and whatever they want to get pushed, their agenda, basically. Matt Bevin will not go on there whatsoever.
Every day, and I'm not in the classroom, nor am I.
But he goes on this guy's show, Big Dog. He goes on Dude's show. He stays on his show. Whenever he's trying to ruffle feathers, as he put it in the first video, this is where he goes, to this man.
Retired school teacher. So, just as always, just as he does every 2 weeks, he gets on the radio and talks about things, and that was his topic of conversation on Tuesday here at this broadcast. And unfortunately, it did ruffle a lot of feathers out there. But yesterday when I reached out to you to ask if you would like to get on the big dog and give the teacher's point of view and represent the teachers, you graciously accepted, and I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate having the opportunity because, our professions are not given a whole lot of credit for the hidden things that happen behind the scenes. Yes, we educate and we teach reading, we teach kids how to do math, we prepare kids for professions, but it's all the things that people don't see that our educators never get credit for, never ask to get credit for.
Well, teachers change lives, and I want to go on the record as saying that I support our teachers in Kentucky. I support everything that takes the maximum care of our teachers in Kentucky while they're in the classroom and even after they retire. So I just want that to be on the record that I support our Kentucky school teachers. I also know that when the governor calls, I interview him, and there were some teachers says, well, you should have cut him off. You should have interrupted him. Well, I give him a platform just as I do everybody else, and that was the reason that I didn't do it. I thought it would be unprofessional to interrupt him, and certainly unprofessional to cut him off the air. I think that one teacher that called me yesterday said, you did the right thing. You gave him enough rope to hang himself.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm not going to comment about the governor, only to say that, we are obviously glad that Senate Bill 1 is not going to become law. Mm-hmm. But we still have a huge obstacle ahead of us, and that is the state budget. This is a session where that is the number one goal of this legislature. I feel certain that that is their goal, is to try to get a budget that makes sense for all Kentuckians. But the bottom line is not what teachers are doing wrong, not what public employees are doing wrong, not how much somebody makes, not what the governor says. The bottom line is that this Commonwealth has a revenue problem. We give away $13 billion in tax credits, and we only bring in $11 million in receipts. We are upside down in this state. And until the legislature is courageous enough to take on that problem and say, we are going to fix our financial house and get it in order, the pension problem wouldn't even be a conversation. Any government service wouldn't be a topic of conversation. If we would keep revenue up with expenses, things are more expensive now than they used to be. And public services are dependent upon public tax dollars. We as a society take for granted public service because it's just always there. We don't always think about how it's funded or what would happen if it went away. When it snows, people wake up in the morning and they expect the roads to be clear. But if we cut the transportation budget to a point where we don't have enough trucks that are viable to be on the road, or we can't afford the salt, people are going to notice. That's a public service.
Sure.
If public schools become bankrupt and there's nowhere to send your students while you're at work, people are going to notice. Mm-hmm. And all those things are dependent upon public tax dollars. So we have to find ways to create revenue so that we can fund all public services in all cabinets, not just public education, but all public services, so that our local communities are thriving, not just surviving and trying to tread water. And so I just appreciate the opportunity to try to, put some facts out there that we're not trying to do anything but fight for the kids that are, and families, frankly, that are hurting out there because they don't always get a voice. And if we're brave enough to voice for those people, then we feel like we're doing part of our job. And that is certainly not throwing a temper tantrum or doing anything but exercising our right as public advocates for the neediest of our population.
Stephanie, as we wrap this up, let me ask you a question. Would you be...
All right, I appreciate y'all coming through, checking the video out. I'm going to look for Bell App Bevan's interview that he did on the same radio station. Till then, bless up, y'all be easy.